Good morning, children. Today we're going to do the concluding part of agriculture, and this is Miss Khyati Dwarkadas. I welcome you to your geography class. We will be studying about the technological and institutional reforms, Bhudan and Gramdan, contribution of agriculture to the national economy, employment and output, food security, as well as the impact of globalization on agriculture. Now, in the technological and institutional reforms, children, mind you, it's a 5-mark question on most occasions in the CBSE. We need to see that agriculture, we know since the ancient ages, has been practiced. It's like for thousands of years it's been there. Sustained use of land without compatible technological institutions and changes have hindered the pace of agricultural development. So then why do you think is India not improved in technical and institutional reforms in agriculture? In spite of the development of sources of irrigation, most of the farmers in large parts of the country still depend upon the monsoons and natural fertility in order to carry on their agriculture. If you've been watching the news lately, people have been not growing cotton, though it is the time to sow cotton. Recently, we saw in one of the news channels that people have burnt the cotton fields, the cotton crop that was harvested. We've also seen that in the Gujarat areas, farms of Gujarat, people have been burning sugarcane after harvesting or just before harvesting. This is the harvest time for sugarcane. And they're spending lakhs of rupees in wasting the precious sugarcane. Why? Because the sugar mills are not located nearby Gujarat. And secondly, the farmers don't have the means in this lockdown, in the pandemic, to go to the sugar mills with their sugarcane, and they do not have enough manual labor. We know that the migrants have migrated to their native land, so they don't have enough manual labor to harvest the crop. Now, agriculture needs serious technical and institutional reforms. So what do? Collectivization, consolidation of holdings, cooperation, abolition of the zamindari system, etc. were given priority to bring reforms in the country after independence. Land focus was the main focus for the first 5-year plan. So if you remember, the government had come up with 5-year plans, and land focus was the main objective of the first 5-year plan. The right to inheritance has led to fragmentation of land holdings. That too in gender chapter, in economics first chapter, you've studied that the father could give his land in inheritance only to the son. So if the son alone can inherit the property, what happens to the daughters? And what about those fathers who don't have sons? What if they have daughters or no children? That caused a lot of concern. Laws of land reforms were enacted, but laws of implementation were lacking. To counter all this, what steps have been taken by the government in agricultural reforms? The government of India embarked upon a policy introducing agricultural reforms to improve Indian agriculture in the 1960s and 70s. Now, last year, even in economics, you've studied your Green Revolution in the Palampur chapter. So, Green Revolution, based on the use of packaged technology, and White Revolution, Operation Flood, once again, we've done it last year, the Milk Revolution, was some of the strategies initiated to improve Indian agriculture. but this led to the concentration of development in few selected areas. Therefore, in the 1980s and 90s, a comprehensive land development program was initiated, which included both institutional and technical reforms. Provisions for crop insurance against calamities, establishment of Grameen banks, cooperative societies, and banks for providing loan facilities to the farmers at lower rate of interest were some of the major steps taken. Please remember, children, please write this last point down. This is important in the major step. In fact, if you want, I would personally suggest you note down these steps taken by the government in agricultural reforms. So you have about 3, 4, 5 points for agricultural reforms by the government. Other steps taken include Kisan Credit Card, which is your KCC, your PAYS or the Personal Accident Insurance Scheme. Then you have special weather bulletins, agriculture programs for farmers, which were also introduced on radio and TV. We have the Kisan Help Centers or call centers now. The government also announces minimum support price, remunerative and procurement prices for important crops to check the exploitation of farmers by speculators and middlemen. So if you realize, we have farmers markets coming in, where farmers come in themselves bringing their crops along. That stops the middlemen from hindering into the farmers' lives. We also have MSP or minimum support price given to the farmers. You've studied about it in class 9. Food security. You've studied about procurement prices. So keep the 9th standard eco chapter in mind, children, and this last point will automatically connect. Last time I had sent you the link to a video by a farmer. So if you watched that, you will realize why these farmers need our help and attention. Now we have Bhudan and Gramdan. Mahatma Gandhi, the father of our nation, declared Vinoba Bhave as his spiritual heir. He also participated in Satyagraha as one of the foremost Satyagrahis. Vinoba Bhave supported Gandhiji's concept of Gram Swarajya after Gandhiji's martyrdom. Vinoba Bhave undertook a Padyatra or a walking yatra to spread this message throughout the country. Once he was at Andhra Pradesh, and some landless farmers demanded land for their economic well-being. He assured them to talk to the Indian government for the provision of land for them if they undertook cooperative farming. So here you have one very important step coming up, cooperative farming. Sri Ramachandra Reddy stood up and offered 80 acres of land to 80 landless farmers. This was known as Bhudan. Later he introduced his ideas throughout India. So concept of Bhudan, the story behind it, who offered the land, and the man behind it. Some zamindars offered to distribute villages among the landless. This was known as Gramdan, when you offer gram or a village. However, many landowners chose to provide some part of their land to poor farmers due to the fear of the Land Ceiling Act. This Bhudan Gramdan movement, initiated by Vinoba Bhave, is also known as the Bloodless Revolution. So it's a revolution of a kind where there is no bloodshed. Now, agriculture is the backbone of the Indian economy, as we all know. Therefore, it has a major contribution to the national economy, employment, and the output. If you see, then through its share in the GDP, India has registered a declining trend from 1951. But in about 2010-11, about 52% of the total workforce was employed in the farming sector. And the declining the share of agriculture in GDP is just a matter of concern, because any decline and stagnation in agriculture will lead to a decline in other spheres of the economy, having wider implications on society. So what happens is, why do we say it contributes to the GDP? Fine, national income, so GDP is affected. Employment, you need sowers, harvesters, reapers, spraying of fertilizers, pluckers, we've done that before. So it generates employment. The establishment of the ICAR, or the Indian Council of Agricultural Research, agricultural universities, veterinary services and animal breeding centers, horticulture development, research and development in the field of meteorology and weather forecasts, etc., were given priority for improving Indian agriculture. Now look at India. This is India, growth of the GDP and major sectors. So in the industries, you can see in the 10th five-year plan, so 2002 upwards, industries have shown 8.3% GDP, and GDP otherwise has been 7.2. 11th five-year plan, 7.4, 8.2, numbers have just reversed. Whereas if you see 2012 to 17, it's been almost the same. So contribution of industries to GDP has been almost the same number by 2017. So though GDP rate is increasing over the years, it is not generating sufficient employment opportunities in the country. Growth in agriculture is decelerating, means coming down. Indian farmers are facing a big challenge from international competition, and our government is going ahead with the reduction in the public investment in the sector of agriculture. So here we all know now that India is banning some countries and is also banning trade with some countries, though there is a free trade policy being followed globally. And some countries are banning certain countries and their products. So for your curiosity, maybe you can find out what impact will that have on Indian agriculture. The government is giving subsidy on fertilizers, but that is also decreased, leading to increase in the cost of production. And a crop will always need fertilizers to keep it strong. Reduction in import duties on agricultural products has proved harmful to agriculture in the country. Farmers are withdrawing their investment from agriculture, causing a downfall in the employment in agriculture. So what is food security system? If you remember, last year we have done the AAA, affordability, accessibility and availability. So in order to ensure availability of food to all sections of society, our government carefully designed the National Food Security System. In that we have the two main components, the buffer stock and the PDS. The PDS is a program that provides food grains and other essential commodities at subsidized prices in rural and urban areas. To the extent that last year we've done the example of Tamil Nadu getting wheat and rice at 2 and 3 rupees a kg. The primary objective of this policy is to ensure food grains to common people at affordable prices. It is targeted for the BPL though. The policy focuses on the growth in agricultural production and on fixing the support price or the minimum support price for the procurement of wheat and rice to maintain the stock. The FCI, or the Food Corporation of India, mind the spelling please, procures and stocks the food grains, whereas distribution ensured by PDS. And did you even know this fact? Then we Indians are the largest wasters of food. How are food grains procured? What are the disadvantages and advantages of this method? Now this again you have studied last year, but we shall go over it quickly. FCI procures food grains from the farmers at MSP. The government used to provide subsidies on agricultural inputs like fertilizers, water, etc. But these have now reached sustainable levels and have also led to large-scale inefficiencies in the use of these scarce inputs. Excessive use of water and fertilizers have led to waterlogging, salinity, and depletion of micronutrients in the soil. This also reminds me, I have asked you to grow a crop and I had asked for a feedback in my previous video. Unfortunately, I did not receive too many feedbacks. So you still have time. You can ping me personally or you can put it on the class group and I will definitely receive your feedback. To add on to your feedback format, you can even click a photo of yourself with the crop that you have grown. The high MSP subsidies in input and committed FCI purchases have distorted the cropping pattern. Wheat and paddy crops grown in Punjab and Haryana are for the MSP they get, which has created serious imbalance in the intercrop parities. Then what divides consumers? What are the drawbacks and disadvantages? Consumers are always divided into two, BPL and APL. However, this categorization is not perfect because a number of deserving poor are excluded from BPL and some of the so-called APL slip back to the BPL because of the failure of one crop, and it is administratively almost impossible, forget difficult, to accommodate such shifts. So how can we become an Atmanirbhar Bharat? This is one of those questions I have asked you in one of my previous videos. I remember having asked this. I had asked for your suggestions on becoming an Atmanirbhar Bharat. And how can we become self-sufficient? So here are some geographical answers. It can be attained if the government provides proper agricultural infrastructure, credit linkage, and also encourages the use of the latest techniques. Instead of concentrating only on wheat or rice, food crop with a better growth potential in that particular area must be encouraged. Creation of necessary infrastructure like irrigation facilities, availability of electricity, etc. may also attract private investments in agriculture. The focus on increasing food grain production should be on a sustainable basis, and also free trade in grains will create a massive employment and reduce poverty in rural areas. So what then is the future of India's food security? Shift from cultivation of food crops to fruits, vegetables, oilseeds and industrial crops. This has led to reduction of NSA under cereals and pulses. Competition for land between non-agricultural uses and agriculture has reduced the NSA. Productivity of land is declining due to fertilizers, pesticides and insecticides. Scarcity of water has led to reduction of area under irrigation, whereas inefficient water management, especially wastewater management, has led to waterlogging and salinity of the soils. Now, food grain production in million tons in India. Once again, you can see the chart. It's only meant for seeing and comparing figures. Cereals, the wheat and pulses are mentioned here. And you can just see the growth or decline in all the years given. So it's from 75 to 85 in about 5 years, and from 14 to 18 in the same period of 5 years. So why has food grain production remained stagnant or fallen for 5 consecutive years from the table that you saw? Land degradation, reduced water storage in aquifers due to unsustainable pumping, inadequate storage and marketing facilities. Farmers have had to pay high prices for HYV seeds, fertilizers, etc., but lack bargaining power to fix prices in their favor. Higher the supply, lower is the demand. This causes distressed sale. Therefore, there can be no food security without security of small farmers. Impact of globalization on agriculture. In the 19th century, when European traders came to India, Indian spices were exported to different countries in the world and farmers were encouraged to grow these crops. Even today, it is one of the most important export items from India. During the British period, cotton belts of India attracted the British and eventually cotton was exported to Britain as a raw material. This you've studied in class 8, you will study about it in class 10 as well. The Champaran movement in 1917 in Bihar became famous due to the farmers. They were forced to grow indigo for the British. Under globalization, particularly after 1990, Indian farmers have been exposed to new challenges. Despite India being an important producer of rice, cotton, rubber, tea, coffee, jute, and spices, our agricultural products are not able to compete with the developed countries due to their highly subsidized agriculture in those countries. To make India and its agriculture successful and profitable, proper thrust should be given to the improvement of the condition of the marginal and small farmers. Green Revolution promised much. It is being alleged that it has caused land degradation. The key word today is Green Revolution, Gene Revolution, which includes genetic engineering. In fact, organic farming is much more in vogue today because it is practiced without factory-made chemicals and fertilizers and pesticides. Hence, it does not affect environment in a negative manner. Indian farmers have a bleak future if they continue growing food crops and food grains on the holdings that grow smaller and smaller as population rises. This too we have done last year, how the land holdings become smaller and smaller. Indian farmers should diversify their cropping patterns from cereals to high-value crops. This will increase incomes and reduce environmental degradation simultaneously. India's diverse climate can be harnessed to grow a wide range of high-value crops. Did you know organic agriculture will adapt to climate change more quickly? Thus, we come to the end of this chapter. There is a reminder for your homework, your experiential learning activities, particularly growing your crop, sending me the feedback, watching the video links that I keep sending with every video almost. In case if there are quizzes or some Google Docs that you need to attempt, do it as a recap, children, when you watch the video, so that whatever you watch in the video registers in your mind for a longer time. If you have the textbook with you, attempt question numbers 1, 2 and 3. I would not advise you to do map work without my presence. Therefore, on a political map of India in your textbook, mark the states I keep mentioning in your textbook, and I have shown you the states which are the major and minor producers of the following crops shown here. I remind you to mark them. I remind you to keep your notebooks updated, complete, integration of art, experiential learning, and be ready. I'm going to meet you soon physically with a big bang. So if you were actually doing that experiential learning activity, then creative planting will help you go green. Until we meet again, thank you and have a nice day, children. Keep revising the chapter, read everything.